What's up, folks? How's it going? This is Abhijit here, and welcome to DevOps Challenge Hub. So let's start with today's interview question. Today we are going to discuss some scenario-based questions on EKS, and today we'll have three questions, three scenario-based questions we'll discuss. So first question is: your team needs to deploy a microservices-based application on AWS using Kubernetes. How would you set up the EKS cluster? We want to deploy a macro service based application on EKS, and how will you set up that cluster? What will be the steps? So first you have to take the VPC, right? You have to set up the VPC where you are going to run your cluster. So you will create the VPC, public subnet, private subnet on like they will be across different availability zones for a high availability. So public private subnets across multiple availability zones for high availability. Then you will set up internet gateway, NAT gateway for outbound access. Next one, you will create EKS cluster. So EKS cluster, you can go to AWS console and create it, or you can create from the command line. After that, you will configure kubectl so that kubectl can talk to the news cluster. And once your kubectl is configured, you have to deploy some core add-ons, some important plugins or add-ons. For example, PPC CNI plugins, code DNS, kube proxy. And optionally, you can, if you need AWS load balancer controller, cluster autoscaler, metric server, or deploy these add-ons. After that, you have to secure the cluster. The security is important, so that so you give the IAM roles with proper permission so that they can enter, user can enter the cluster. And now you have to give role-based access control. So let's say for developer, they will only be able to view the pod details, they escape the pod details, but they won't be able to delete it. Only DevOps engineer, maybe they will have the admin access. So that access you will decide using role-based access control. And from pod, you also need access to download files from S3 right into some DynamoDB database. For that, you need to have IAM roles for service account. You will be defining IAM roles for service account for pod and role-based access control for user. So these are the two things I will be doing it to secure it and enable logging using CloudWatch. Next, you will be deploying the microservice. Whatever microservice you have, you will go and kubectl apply -f deployment.yml. So once you deploy, you have to use the Kubernetes services like cluster IP, node port, or load balancer to expose them and organize them using namespaces for logical separation. Then it will be monitoring also and auto scaling. So you set up enable the auto scaling HPA, horizontal pod autoscaler, or cluster and cluster autoscaler both, and use CloudWatch container insights and Prometheus Graph for observability. And finally, if it is required, you will integrate with CI/CD deployment. So that's these are the steps. So first, you will set up the VPC. Second, you create the cluster. Third, you configure kubectl. Then use some add-ons. Then have to secure the cluster. Then deploy the microservices. Then use the autoscaler, horizontal pod autoscaler, HPA, and cluster autoscaler. And finally, if required, CI/CD integration. These are the steps you will be taking to deploy microservices on EKS cluster. Now let's go to the next question. So next scenario-based question is: you have a backend app and front-end React app that need to be deployed on EKS. Walk us through CI/CD deployment strategy. So what will be your CI/CD deployment strategy? You have a front-end app, React app, and there is a backend app, and you want to deploy them on EKS. So CI/CD strategy. So first you have to create a code repo. Like you will have front-end and backend, two separate GitHub repo, and then or you can have in a separate folder in monorepo. So either there are two separate repositories, or it's inside the same repositories, and there are two separate folders. So it's a monorepo, and you have to front end and back end, right? And then each project will contain Docker files so that you can Dockerize the container, Dockerize it for containerization, and you have deployment .yml and service.yml for Kubernetes deploy. So this is the like a structure which you have put into your repo. And after you have put into repo, you have to pick up your tool, like whether it's a Jenkins or code build or GitHub Actions. you pick up your, then you have to set up the CI, continuous integration. For continuous integration, let's say you pick up Jenkins or you pick up GitHub Actions. So then you mention the steps, like the different stages. First is check out the code. Right? If there is a trigger, like the developer push the code or tagged it, like you want to trigger it, trigger the checkout, then build the Docker image, then tag the image, then push the image to Amazon SQL. The steps you mentioned in the file. After that, you update the code that is manifest with image tags. So you have to use customize or Helm or dynamic set to update the image tag in the manifest. So you update the image tag in the manifest file. And then you deploy using kubectl or Helm to deploy updated manifest to EKS cluster. kubectl apply minus a backend deployment kubectl apply minus a front-end deployment. This is the way you will deploy. So CI build is GitHub action. Let's say you are using GitHub action, build and push Docker image to CI, and CD is continuous deployment where you can use GitHub action or Argo CD. So you update your Docker image tag, and then you deploy it, latest image. Deploy the latest images to EKS. Okay. And then I have to also expose the service, and after post deploy, I have to check whether it's really running properly or not. If it is not running properly, you have to need to have some kind of rollback strategy, etc. But this is the way you will be setting up the CI/CD for EKS. So this ensures automation, repeatability, and version control. It can easily extend to multiple environment, dev, staging, prod. And we can use AWS native service like ECR, EKS, and optionally code pipeline or Argo CD. Now let's go to the next scenario-based question. So a service running in EKS can't connect to RDS database backend in the private subnet. So in private subnet, RDS is there and it's not able to connect this service. So how would you debug? What are the steps you will take? So there can be multiple steps. You can in the interview you can just mention 3-4 steps, 3-4 strategies you will apply to debug it. That should be good enough. And if user dig deeper, if they ask more, definitely you will be telling more. But initially, 2-3 you can share, then you can wait for interviewer response. If they are looking for more information, you can provide. So first thing is like it's not able to connect to RDS. Maybe RDS that URL is not correct, endpoint, or port number is not correct. So check in the configuration whether port number 33606 for MySQL or PostgreSQL SQL is 5432. Check the port number and this URL endpoint is correct. That is the first thing. After this, you check the VPC networking check. Like worker node are in the same VPC as RDS. So both are in the same VPC, or they are like even if it's different VPC, they are connected through VPC peerings. So if everything is fine, then check it's in a private subnet and Kubernetes pod can access that private subnet. So whether you are able to access that private subnet from that pod. Then you have to check the security group, whether inbound rules, outbound rules, all these elements in like worker node security group allowing the traffic, inbound traffic. That RDS, whether it's able to get the traffic from that EKS pod. So allow traffic from EKS worker node security groups or specified CIDR, whether security group is updated properly. NACL, network access control, subnet level policies will check. Is there any blocking? Is there any restriction? Any traffic is not blocked. Check the DNS resolution and a test pod to check if RDS hostname resolves. So run a test pod to check RDS hostname you are able to resolve NS lookup, etc. Then you have to check connectivity test. You can do call pod and telnet and endpoint 5432. So you can do telnet to that RDS endpoint and 5432, whether you're able to telnet it or not. Then authentication, DBA authentication is proper or not, and that IAM roles and token generation is happening or not. The other things you can check. Then finally, you will check the logs. You can check logs at the beginning itself, see log what kind of errors are there, kubectl logs. Okay. and restart restart or roll out the pod if implement in conflict changes. You have to add NAND gate if anything is needed. So the other things, like mostly like you will check BPC in the same BPC, then for URL and config, the endpoint and port number is correct. Then security group, NSCL, right? NS lookup, DNS resolution, connectivity test, like you can install it, log files. So the other things you will be checking. Now let's go to the quiz section. You can pause the video and try to answer. Which add-on is mandatory for Kubernetes networking in AKS? It's VPC CNI plugin. VPC CNI plugin required for pod networking in AWS VPC. For front-end React app exposed to internet, which Kubernetes service type is best? It's exposed to internet, so load balancer. Load balancer typical type automatically provisions AWS ELB to expose services externally. If DNS resolution fails inside the pod when connecting to RDS, which command helps check the hostname? DNS resolution failing, so we can do NS lookup. Okay. So that's it for today. Hope you like this video. Please like, share, comment, and subscribe to my YouTube channel. And also follow my LinkedIn page, Devops Channel, and participate in the quiz contest daily. I post a quiz daily. You can participate in that. And also follow Devops Challenge WhatsApp channel for regular update. So thank you for watching this video and see you again in the next video.